Okay, then let's start. And welcome to this ABB Tech Talk about the NIS2 Directive, which is issued by the European Union as an EU-wide legislation on cybersecurity to achieve a high level of cybersecurity across the member states. To respond to the growing threats posed by the digitalization and the surge of cyber attacks, the Commission has submitted a proposal to replace the current NIS1 Directive and thereby strengthen the security requirements, address the security of supply chains, streamline reporting obligations, and introduce more stringent supervisory measures and stricter enforcement requirements, including a harmonized sanction across the European Union. And as you can find a lot of information about how to apply this into the IT world, when it comes to OT, the information becomes very scarce. This Tech Talk is supposed to shed some light into this area. Next slide, please. Thanks. Just a little housekeeping before we get started so that you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of the example of the attendee interface, and you should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop. The control panel hides automatically when not in use, and you move your cursor to bring it back. You have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your question into the Q&A box of your attendee interface. You may send in your question at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them at the end of the presentation during a Q&A session. If you cannot locate the Q&A in your meeting controls, then click on the controls button with the 3 dots, which is right there at the bottom to the right, and then click on Q&A. This adds the Q&A box so that you can type in your question. A reminder that all attendees are in mute mode and today's presentation is being recorded except for the Q&A session. We will provide the recording to you during coming days for your reference. Please also give us your quick feedback in the survey popping up right after the webinar closed. And just a quick disclaimer, we did a lot of work to map links and services responding to the requirements, but errors are human and we cannot take any liability for content and completeness of the material presented during today's webinar. So, and safety is our first priority and our target is zero harm. So even though you might be familiar with the surroundings, please always obey your local safety rules. And this applies in particular when attending this Tech Talk driving a car. So with no further ado, let's turn over to the presenters of today. Tobias Nitsche, as a global cybersecurity practice lead located in Frankfurt, Germany, and Massimo Scanu, lead center manager cybersecurity located in Milano, Italy. My name is Gero Lustig. I'm the digital lead for ABB Energy Industries in Central and Southern Europe, and I am your host today. The agenda covers the latest information about the upcoming EU Cyber Directive, NIS2, for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will have a Q&A session on your submitted questions. With that, I will hand over to the cybersecurity practice lead, Tobias Nitsche and Massimo Scanu, to introduce the Network and Information Directive 2, short NIS2, and its implications for our operations. Tobias, where do we stand today?
Hey, Gero, thank you for the introduction. The main reason for more regulations is the increased number of cyber attacks. I mean, caused by criminals with different motivations, if it is money or state actors with different objectives, hybrid war, stealing intellectual property. We have seen a lot of things there and the numbers are increasing. What we see is also an increasing number of cyber regulations, and not only in the EU, but in many regions of the world. So, but today's focus is on the Directive of Security and Network Information Systems, the NIS2 Directive. Other challenges are the lack of OT resources, the selection of the right tools by people who know the protocols, understanding in the OT, and the best fit. So the invest will not result in a, let's say, for example, a very expensive inventory tool. When we talk to our customers, we have seen that incident response playbooks often are not designed for OT, but coming from the IT SOC, because there they are already available for a longer time. And they and if you then act according these playbooks, that could, in some cases, add even more risks, to production health and safety than the incident itself. Last point, many different responsibilities, split multiple stakeholders with not good defined handovers makes instant response hard to manage. So that's also a challenge that we see.
Correct.
So we will give you the latest update that we are aware of. So there was the political agreement adopted on 13th July. It is expected that the Parliament will vote in its plenary of 17th of October, so in some days. From then, the 21-month period for member states to transport NIS into local law starts, which means that's the perfect time to plan budgets and also act accordingly and implement the requirements to fulfill the regulatory.
So I guess most of our customers are now interested as to how much the coming legislation is going to affect them. Tobias, what is the current view?
Okay, so this is an overview that we will go into detail within that presentation. So we have a much broader scope. Only very small enterprises are excluded. You see the numbers here. We're up to 49 employees or up to 10 million turnover balance sheet. That means only the very small are excluded. Everyone else is in. So there is no threshold like former critical infrastructures and local countries could set or define these thresholds. So it was very different between the member states. This is gone. The member states cannot set any thresholds anymore. So everyone who is within that scope needs to fulfill. The fines are defined similar to GDPR. Measurements have to be implemented, like reporting within 24 hours. The management board has full responsibility for the treatment of the cyber risks. This has also been defined, so they need to sign these risks mitigation documentations. The EU countries can require to use only certified ICT products, services, and processes. The EU certification scheme, it's not clear to us yet how this would look in detail, but it might come or might not come. As you see, there is the member states here have the ability to select or not select that requirement. Then also the national authorities are given extensive controls and powers of investigations, if they did not have that before already. But they will do on-site inspections, they will include checks, random checks, and all these kind of stuff to check if you fulfill the requirements. Then another thing, this slide shows the essential and important industries. The ones that are bold are the new introduced industries in NIS2. The others were already there from NIS1. That shows a huge extended scope. And again, with the removal of any thresholds, the very small companies, nearly everyone in that industry will be affected and should use the time for preparation. On the next slides, we go into the details of our customers from the energy industries. What does it mean? So, for example, for electricity, undertakings which carry out this function of supply. You will see it is not only covering the producers, but covers the supply chain of a specific industry. So we decided to focus on the next two slides on ABB process automation energy industry customers base. There are other areas covered too by the regulatory where ABB operates, like marine and ports, but this is not part of this presentation today. What you also will see, like for the example with the chemicals here, we might not be able to cover in this session the exclusions or detailed definitions, like if you are regulated depending, if you are a manufacturer or distributor of specific substances or mixtures. But this information you can get out of the details of the regulatory requirements text itself. If you need help here, we, with our consulting services, can help you to look into the details. But the overall message is, it is the supply chain. We need to have everyone covered here, not only the one who produces it, but also the distributors, also the users. So where it is applicable, it is an EU directive, so everyone who is a member state of the EU will be who needs to fulfill that. On the other hand, what we have seen with other directives is if you have trade agreements with the EU and you still want to do that, you might also be affected and needs to apply to the rules of the EU, like GDPR and others. So I expect similar things here.
So we just learned that the directive will apply to most countries, most of the businesses in energy and process industry. So what are the operator duties? And here I'd like to clarify, operator is a producer, production owner of the entity, and it must not be confused with the operator we know from our DCS business. So Tobias, what has to be done?
Okay, so yeah, the operator duties. I mean, in the regulatory, there are multiple requirements that might be fulfilled by the local country or the authority in the country, like the BSI in Germany or other agencies. But there are specific duties that have to be applied by operators of these essential or critical entities. The one is who talks the most about it is the cybersecurity measures in Article 18. Then there is Article 22 with standards, the reporting, and the registration. Also, the article numbers have changed during the draft version, so this is the latest information that I have seen. So this is the one that should be fine at the moment and is voted for. So when we look into the details, that means, for example, in Article 18, this is the overview, and we will go into even more details of the topics like risk assessment, incident handling, business continuity, or crisis management, the supply chain security, and so on. And we have mapped this to the existing international standard ISO 27001 because this is well known to, let's say, the old critical infrastructure companies. They have already adopted that standard typically during NIS2 requirements. So where it is applicable, we have mapped it for you so you can see it. On the other hand, we will change from the presentation to a conversation style, where I will take the role of the operator and ask Massimo Scanu, my colleague, who will take the role of the supplier or service provider, how he can help me with my operator duties. Let's start. So what you now see is what I've said. On the left hand, you see the paragraph in the NIS2 directive. Then you see the mapping to the ISO. You see the operator duties and our or the supplier answer. So your use cases are the operator duties. Our support and help and guidance is what you see on the supplier. First of all, the essentials and important entities shall take appropriate technical or organizational measures to manage the risk. Those measures shall ensure a level of security of the network and information system. So our IT risk and governance teams do this for a longer time, together with IT consulting companies already for the IT scope. Massimo, but our OT asset owners tell us they cannot apply the same rules for OT as the risk differs How can you, as a supplier of OT components, devices, and systems, help us?
Hi all, thanks Tobias. Yes, we as a supplier, ABB can offer a risk analysis based on deep expertise on OT environment and based on industry standard and conducted by our cybersecurity certified engineer expert from high-level risk assessment to detailed risk assessment.
Okay, so thank you. Also, then on the second paragraph, we now need to cover incident handling for OT in a holistic view, meaning from prevention to detection to response and recovery. Again, the detection mechanisms and response playbooks need to be different than in the IT to not introduce even more or higher risk to health, safety, and production. How can ABB, with their domain expertise, support these requirements?
Yes, also here ABB can support with different type of technical tools which are continuously tested by and released by our R&D teams, like for example malware protection or application listing. And in addition to that, also we can support operator with the implementation of detection and monitoring solution like network anomaly detection and event monitoring, with also the support of the incident management, also always through our cybersecurity expert.
So when you say that, I see that the implementation means that there is also the playbooks around this,
yes,
designed by the experts of the supplier, which take into account the correct response to an incident, right?
Yes, in the event monitoring solution, there are all the playbooks that are and the use cases that are created by our R&D team that know quite well our system and all the interaction within the system.
Okay, so thank you. Then I have the other requirement that I listed now on that slide is when I have created, for example, my business impact analysis and created my business continuity plan based on that, and therefore added things like the disaster recovery plan, crisis communication plan, all of that is required. And how can you as a supplier help me to meet my business objectives and targets like reaction times coming out of that plans, recovery times and objectives?
Yes, with ABB, obviously the main thing is to support our customer through our service contract that is called ABB Care, that you can see here listed, that can give to customer commitment for continuous support, but not only for the automation area, but also for cybersecurity service. And this is a key enabler for rapid response in case of cyber incident, or to manage, to support customer managing a backup and restore system to comply to their disaster recovery plan, for example.
Okay, super. This is about the next one is about the supply chain security with direct suppliers and service providers like you. How can you help me if I need to understand how ABB handles security and the security of their suppliers? And how can you support my supplier audits that I need to do with you?
Let's say ABB will always with our expert can help customer ensuring that all the supplier implement cybersecurity requirement based on the international standard for the OT environment, verifying all the necessary certification that has to be in place. And ABB has also a supporting document for requirement that need to be followed for suppliers.
Okay, good. So now coming to the next one, I have the requirement to make sure during acquisition, development and maintenance that security measures are taken care of in my information systems, including vulnerability handling and disclosure. How can suppliers like ABB support me and share that?
Let's say ABB has a public approach to disclose vulnerability, providing guidelines also how to manage it. These data are freely accessible from customers on internet, with also the possibility to freely register for alert subscription. Nevertheless, can also support the requirement for the entire system lifecycle by certification, different type of certification based always on IEC 62443, so the one related to automation and OT work, that cover from the secure development lifecycle of products, so our R&D group are certified. And nevertheless, also the different component, main component of the ICS are itself certified till the complete HMI system. And since this year, we got also certification for as a service provider, so we can ensure to provide customer all our cybersecurity solution and services based on international standard for cybersecurity. So also the management of the contract of the service maintenance on cyber.
So is this a global certification or is it a local one?
No, this is a global certification for the entire ABB group.
Okay, that sounds good. So then, coming to the next paragraph, the goal is clear here, I guess, from the description. We need to create policies, procedures to assess the risk management measures so that we have implemented. In IT, this is done already. So, but we need an approach that takes into account the OT and the specific OT risks. So we might not. We can reuse some of the typical mechanisms for the IT, but there are others that also need to be covered. What would be an industry approach on how can vendors or suppliers of the systems that are assessed help?
Let's say ABB with as a supplier of system with the deep expertise on OT environment can help customer preparing this sort of gap analysis of the cybersecurity that is in place at their plant compared to the international standard, or supporting also customer with individual specific cybersecurity consultancy services, and also we can support customer on maintaining their ISM management system of documentation for cyber, with all the needed documentation for their control system.
Thank you. So this is the last slide for Article 18. So I said at the beginning, it's a longer one. So let's start. I need to create a policy and document the use of cryptography or encryption or code signing in my information systems. What is the part of the supplier here?
Let's say we as a supplier of software, obviously of our system, we can support it first with source code signing or hashing, so that you can be sure that the code is coming from ABB and not from any other hacker or something like that. And also one other important thing is the possibility to have encrypted communication protocol at HMI level like IPsec. And with the encrypted connection for remote support maintenance to site with the usage of our remote access platform, that this is normally part of our care contract. That is the maintenance contract, the care contract, the ABB care contract is our maintenance contract.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Then we are talking about Article 21, and this is what I said, not clarified how that will look like to me, but it is also a may require. There is a certification scheme, but we feel well prepared with our certifications against the leading industry standards like IEC 62443 series, and we think with that we can also adopt whatever comes on the certification scheme. We will have at the end or nearly at the end of this presentation a short slide about another EU directive that is coming that was introduced some weeks ago. Which will also cover products, but not the processes like this one. We go to Article 20, the reporting obligations. This has some impact because now the broad scope of industries have the requirement to notify without undue delay, and in any event within, or let's say in the critical events, within 24 hours after having become aware of an incident. So the act of the notification in itself shall not make the notifying entity subject to increased liability. That is also stated. Then the question that I have is to answer: how can you notify without the delay? I guess you need to design a solution for reporting, taking OT incidents into account, and you need to have the right contracts in place to act within the given time frame and have the reaction times covered. There's another thing I missed, sorry. Is an exchange of information requirement. So with trusted communities of essential and important entities. So that means your peers that you have need to be organized, and if there is anything happening in your company, you should share it with your peers so they are aware and might be able to act accordingly before they are affected. So then going again here on Article 20 and 26, reporting obligations and information exchange. So I need to establish a mechanism, Massimo, to detect, respond, and report an incident within given time frame. I have heard from a customer the question, do you have a golden button for reporting?
No, just not. With ABB, we have not a golden button that solve all the problem, but we have a lot of solution that can help customer and all together make it possible for customer to get an easy report. First of all, for sure, you can see listed here is the care contract, so the maintenance contract that I told before, that enable customer to get the needed resources on time. With the service and reaction time that they need already in place in the contract. The second thing is the implementation of the different tools that also we spoke before for monitoring and detection. That these one are created and predefined as needed for our OT environment, and this one can, let's say, create automatic report that can directly send out for reporting. And this type of report can be sure that are not full of false positive, but for sure without false positive, because are built up by the the owner of the control system that we are.
Okay. Yeah, so with that said, we will be able to provide automatisms that come close to a golden button, right? So there's still some work needed. There's still someone need to look into the topic. So it's a managed security service that we prefer here, but not a complete automatism with a golden button. But again, I really liked that question, so I brought it up here.
Things that will be done. Yes.
Yeah, I'm now engaged to exchange information about threats and vulnerabilities and protective measures with my peers. Do supplier provide some of these informations to me, or especially ABB?
Yes, also for this one we spoke also before. Yes, we share we share directly on our webpage all alerts and notification that we detect on our product, and also with all the available instruction for customer to mitigate the vulnerability and how to handle it. And these are all public and available. And we also are publicly sharing our standard approach to the software vulnerability handling, which can cause which the customer can use for any audit that will come. And you were saying before that audit can come from the local government.
Yeah, it helps the companies with their vendor audit, if this is public available. So then there is the last obligation, which is or duty, which means Member states need to register their entities in a central register maintained by NIS2, the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. So they will have a register of all entities and can share that information upon request of member states. But for sure, that depends on the request and the reason for the request. That's just an information slide, so this will happen. Then this is what I mentioned, after regulation is before regulation. So the next one is already coming, and it's complement to the NIS Directive. Now with the focus on components. So the EU Cyber Resilience Act had the goal, or has the goal, to secure the components that are used. And this is not only for the industry sector. You see the examples here. 90% of the products in the fact sheet say there is a self-declaration is fine and can cover it, like photo editing, word processing, smart speakers. There are some examples on the slide. But the other 10% of products, which are, let's say, split between critical class 1 and critical class 2, here you have systems that are critical software, that are used in industrial control systems and covered by the NIS2. There is an extended impact of these devices. You see again here some examples. Within the examples, you will not find the devices that ABB has, your typical, maybe, or for sure we have network device or firewalls, but or industrial firewalls, but we are covered, and the systems that we have are covered. You see it in the middle of that slide. I added for class 1 and for class 2. There you find the topics typically associated with ABB and let's say production systems. So this directive complements the NIS2, is coming, and will have a similar, let's say, time span. I guess that's not the last. We are in a highly regulated market more and more with cybersecurity, and yeah, that was the last slide on the NIS directive. So let's look into the next topics.
Yeah. All right, Tobias and Massimo, thanks for this very diligent exercise you did in mapping all requirements and things which has to be done, and also what ABB can do. But I think this long list of duties of the operator, where the operator has to comply to, Massimo, how can ABB help here best?
Next slide, you can go.
Go to the next slide, Tobias.
Yes, let's say with the ABB, with the Collaborative Operations Center that are at the end control room from where with our cybersecurity and certified expert with obviously deep knowledge on OT environment, we can deliver different services to our customer across the region with also secure connection following the ICE international standard. This Collaborative Operations Center, as you can see in the bottom on the right, we have two, the one located in Genoa, in Italy at Genoa, and one in Germany at Mannheim. And for let's say the upcoming NIS2 cybersecurity challenges that Tobias was describing at the beginning, we can support customers from here from different perspectives, as you can see here, and all the details at the end are listed, and some of them we spoke already. So from the protecting, monitoring, and this incident responding and consultancy services, always about cybersecurity, that we can deliver from our Collaborative Operations Center. So monitoring, protecting, and also all the portion on the right side. If we see what is a Collaborative Operations Center, is not it's a real comprehensive range of digital capabilities to support customer. Here are divided mainly in 6 pillars, from operational support to analytics, predictive maintenance, optimization, control, and in particular, you see that you have cyber and safety in the middle. Cyber and safety at the end, there are some similarity. Like if you look from the ADSOP or the risk analysis are quite similar. So there are also point of conjunction, and for sure our experts that have knowledge on safety and on cyber can work together and help customer to meet the challenges. Also for this collaborative operation center, you see on the bottom right, we can deliver services for monitoring, for the monitoring solution, also having our collaborative operation center as a NOC or as a SOC, so Network Operation Center or Security Operation Center. Next slide, please. So ABB as a partner, what can give to the customer? For sure can give a global available cybersecurity expert through our ABB Collaborative Operations Center that we saw before. All these experts and the ABB itself has years of experience on security event and incident response playbooks are created for our ICSS system in the OT environment. So with deep knowledge on what can happen on the ICSS on the OT world. And then we know exactly what are the behavior of the OT system. So in terms of communication protocol, in terms of data exchanges between controller and server and so on, which help to shorten the time of learning and understanding what is coming up in the system with the easily coordination phase that reduce, obviously, as we told before, the false positive, that is the most critical things that get longer the understanding of what is happening to have at the beginning a real solution. The supervisioning, also the supervisioning of the ICSS security solution done by design vendor clear all the responsibility to customers. So it's all on our end, and we can support fully the customer. Also, other things is all our products that has a very seamless integration and easy to maintain at the end. So with all these, we can really support the customer for the next time.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Massimo. I think that's a lot of things to digest. Before we come to the Q&A section, why don't you summarize real quick, probably on one page, what we heard so far?
Right, so it is one page.
Hey, that's good.
So let me summarize about the NIS directive, what we have learned, so what we have presented to the audience. So from EU, there is a timeline. It's ticking. From our knowledge, in October this year, 17th, there will be the vote that is expected. From then on, 21 months to adopt in local law, which means if it is local law, it applies to our customers. Then there is the scope. We learned about, or we have presented that this has changed a lot compared to NIS1. More industries are in, and also within the already existing industries, all the thresholds are gone, except the very small companies. So it's no longer just covering the old critical infrastructure, but the whole industry, more or less. Then there are measures that have to be implemented. So there are the obligations for report cybersecurity incidents, the registration with national authorities, and they need to register it in the central register at ENISA. Then there is the duties for the management board, so they are responsible for their risk, cyber risk treatment. You have to implement based on the risk assessment, the mitigation factors. It's not only, yeah, we do the same thing everywhere. No, you need to know exactly what kind of risks you are facing, how you mitigate them, and what is your, let's say, accepted level of risk, and need to document this and tune it and review. Also, there's a possibility that member states may require certified products to be used only.
So, as ABB, we can support customer in this time. So it's the right time to support customer for budgeting. So since we have a lot to do, cybersecurity, it's a big stuff. with our competency center, the lead center, and the two collaborative operation center. We can support customer preparing the scope of the cybersecurity products and services that they have to put in place. And obviously, this cybersecurity scope will be tailored depending on the risk assessment, depending on the needs of the plants. So it's not all. We put in place everything we have, depending on customer. How we can do it? Obviously, we explained before that we have our collaborative operation center that are available globally and here in the region also, that can support with the cybersecurity expert customer understanding how to go with this NIS2 directive. And obviously, care agreement, the contract, service contract, it's something that will help a customer to being able to get resources, to get the needed reporting and obligation that are coming from the NIS2 directive.
Good. So then thanks a lot for this quick summary. That's the end of the presentation. Thanks a lot. Recording will also stop now.